No, you won't close it. Laura,
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. My name is Noel A. Figueroa, and this is another edition of November Notations. Thank you all so much for joining in tonight. This will be the last open mic and workshop for the year 2022, and I'm looking forward to another awesome session of not only great poetry but also an excellent discussion as well. November Notations is basically another open mic with a workshop portion where there's usually either writing exercises or topics that I bring up to discuss. And for this particular edition, the theme was scribes in all seasons. We're going to talk about what it means to be a scribe in all seasons, in all circumstances, what that means. What would that mean for each of us as authors and poets? So I'm looking forward to diving right in and hearing everyone's poetry and getting everyone's insight on this particular topic. For those not already familiar with me, I'm Noel A. Figueroa. I am a poet, author, blogger, workshop facilitator, and event host, and I established Poets with Purpose back in 2018. Poets with Purpose is currently celebrating its 4th year of connecting poets and poetry lovers of all experience levels and backgrounds, as well as locations. Now, the purpose of this workshop is a few things. First of all, it was created to provide community exposure to poetry and spoken word. Also, an opportunity to develop communication and presentation skills. An opportunity to build confidence as a writer. A forum where it is my desire to find inspiration as well as be a source of inspiration, not just for myself, but for all that participate in my workshop and events, and also opportunities to, to network and potentially collaborate on projects. So for this edition of November Notations, we're going to start off with an open mic portion. Poets on the open mic for this open mic include Sonia Stuckey, Lynn Shapiro, Sarah Surrey, Michelle Monique, and myself, Noelle Figueroa, will be bringing up the end of the list for the open mic portion. So at this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call Lynn Shapiro to the mic. Lynn, if you're ready, you can unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hi, Lynn. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. I brought 2 poems. I think that's what you asked for. And
Yes.
I've never read, well, they're sort of works in progress. So, which I'll just begin. The
Excellent.
first one is called The On-Ramp Just Might Be Your Off-Ramp. I'm at the Guggenheim Museum on the inner ramp that defies orientation. It's a spiraling cornucopia, a vertiginous shell, an inner ear, a uterus, a self-winding music box. With no idea of how near you are to the beginning or the end, you ride the curve to the whatever. Prepare yourself to meet yourself halfway down. Forgotten words leap like flame off the tongue, illuminate the long ago. Shiny new thoughts catch the light. UFOs? The color of crows? And if you peel, pry, nudge hard enough, what's gone missing might suddenly appear as you careen along. The shiny black candy box, or the silk handkerchief with naval insignia, the sailor boy bathtub toy, or the lollipops that were never shared, the wedding feast minus the +1, or the oyster bar where your future son will learn to eat chowder. The Guggenheim is itself a grand old tureen, a decades-old ring with new stones. Time backs into itself here, kicks up dust, might bury you alive or shuttle you somewhere you've dreamt about in a future version that's already happened. It's an architectural launching pad. So, thank you. I don't know how that sounded, but I'm going to think about it. And the next poem is takes me back to my childhood home in Ozone Park, Queens. And I should explain that it is not a park. It is a neighborhood in Queens. I don't know why, but that has been misunderstood. So it's a bathroom poem. It's a lavatorial poem, Ozone Park, Queens. I spend my life sitting like an angel, Arthur Rimbaud. In the bathroom silence, I learned concentration. My feet didn't reach the floor, so I'd swing my striped sneakers with white socks folded at the ankle, flex heel and toe as if pumping the air to go higher and higher over black and white interlocking hexagon tiles, a pattern of 6 whites around a single black. But then the pattern would shift, appear another way, both configurations never to be seen at the same time, no matter how I tried. I'd reach for the beaded pull chain attached to the light, lengthened just for me, and give a good push. Like Foucault's pendulum, the chain and shadow changed direction, and speed as the force diminished. Another push, another trajectory. And beyond reach, over the tub shower frame, dangled a tentacled gargoyle, the orange-ribbed enema bag, and a ram's head with horns, my grandfather's hernia belt. Both creatures that watched over me, witness to my patience. Have a little geduld, my grandma said, with the laws of gravity. On the tub rim, my grandfather's shaving brush swirled like a morning glory against his white bristles, and shaving cup with soap ends like the ones my grandmother whittled into the right shape for giving me an enema. Two boys, a sailor who, two toys, a sailor who resembled the Cracker Jack seafarer, and Bobby the bath boy, half submerged in his own bubbly tub, accompanied me when my grandma gave me a good washing. All of us devoted to the bathroom, the warm, steaming heart of the house where we practiced science. Thank you.
Wow, Lynn, excellent poetry, excellent poetry. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed those pieces. For those not familiar with you, can you share your website information and the books that you have available?
Oh, yeah. Do you want me to do that live or in the chat?
You can do that right now. You can do it live.
Okay. So I'm missing one of the books. This is one book, which is, I guess, backwards. It's To Set Right. And it is a really cool book with cool elements to it. And that was published by WordPress Communications. And the other one, I can run and go get it, is called Gala. I have a little, I don't know where my button is. Let me go run and get it quickly.
Sure, sure.
Info, which is a museum poem called Gala and has historic photographs in it. Deal with Gala Dali and a gala at the Whitney Museum. And those are both, you can check out my website, which is, what is it? LynnShapiroPoet.com. That's simple. And that's it.
Excellent.
I'm really looking forward to hearing everyone else. So
thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Lynn. And I just recently got a copy of To Set Right and Gala, which I'm looking forward to reading. So thank you so much for sharing your poetry, and I'm looking forward to reading these excellent books. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Next up, Michelle, if you're ready, you're free to unmute yourself and share your work.
Hi, Noel. Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Hey, good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you. Good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thanks.
So I'll quickly introduce myself and then I'll get into some poetry. My name is Michelle Antoine. I also go by Shelly. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, Zumba and dance instructor, as well as a poet and author. I have two books. I'll read one poem from each book. The first one is called Stop, Love, and Listen. It's a collection of poems and journal entries that focus on being present in life, learning how to love yourself, and learning how to listen to your intuition. And then the second book is called Lost and Found. I published this with 2i Publishing, a small publishing company. And this is more so a poetic journey about me finding myself from being lost from heartbreak, insecurities, and self-doubt. I'm going to start with one from Lost and Found. So this is kind of just about like self-love. It's been 7 days with a dab of forever. The floodgates haven't yet opened, but it seems I walk with the weight I didn't ask for. As if each heartbreak is a link in a massive chain of defeat, I'm not sure how much longer I can survive with the wind knocked out of me. Loss after loss after loss, simultaneously finding myself after each one. As if I lose myself in these relationships, I try to find myself. I am often blinded, stuck in a fog of desperate approval, constantly looking around rather than within. My penmanship has always taken a liking to the words, I love you. A couple years ago, I replaced you for me, and I've been trying to live that way ever since. I love me. 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 And that's the first one. Thank you. And I will go into the next one. So this is part of my first book, which contains both poems and journal entries. So this actually kind of started off as a journal entry. And just to quickly share before this, I was, although I'm a therapist myself, I was in therapy as well, just for my own mental health. And the therapist had given the advice of falling in love with the silence. And I was very confused by that statement. So I decided to write about it. So this is what came from it. So it reads more like a journal entry. Fall in love with the silence, she said. Fall in love with the silence, she said. Fall in love with the silence? Are you kidding? Fall in love with the silence, as in no music, no noise, no sounds, silence. Nothing but me, myself, and silence. Nothing to listen to but silence. I can think of so many better things to do. Is this some kind of sick joke? Some kind of cruel punishment? The silence, really? The silence where I have nothing else but myself? What do I even do? Where do I even begin? I don't know. How do I fall in love with it? It's something I don't know. Silence. I hate that word. It makes me cringe. It's supposed to be beautiful, but it's so ugly to me. What am I supposed to do with myself? Read? Write? Do those even count? I'm doing something, so is it still considered silence? I don't know. I don't know where to begin. I think I need to take a rest. I think my mind needs a break. I know exactly what you mean. Do not jump to conclusions. Take a break. Invest in myself. Sit back and relax. Watch the show as it goes on, whether I want it to or not. Be quiet. Enjoy it. Sometimes that's hard. I want to talk. I want to say something. I have to get it out. I have to do something. Just the thought of me going to an event alone, and I already have presumptions. I feel like the world can read my mind, like I'm an empty vase. Everyone can see right through me. There is no depth. I'm as shallow as you want me to be. But truthfully, I can have a spine when I want to. Truthfully, I'm worth more than I think. Truthfully, the silence is as golden as gold. I will be okay. I will love me. I will cherish me. I will fall completely and utterly in love with myself in the silence, because I will be accompanied with music at live music events and poetry and open mic events, and my pen and paper and books to read, and exercise and eating healthy and making soul collages and making vision boards and writing. I will love myself like never before. I needed this. I needed this so badly. Thank you. And that's my 2 poems.
Wow, excellent, excellent. Michelle, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing those poems. Very powerful. Love the imagery and the subject matter. I appreciate your work. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
Can you share, for those that might not be familiar with you, can you share where you can be found on social media as well as where your books can be purchased?
Sure. So my social media is Shelly Jelly 89, CHELIJELLY 89. And both of my books, these are my published books. I'm also featured in 5 anthologies that can all be found on my website, micheltherapy.com, MICHEL therapy.com. And I'll leave both in the chat as well. Thank you, Noelle, for having me. And I'm excited to hear the rest. And Lynn, you did amazing. And I'm excited for everyone else.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. I enjoy your poetry. And I also, just to mention to our audience, I did purchase a copy of Lost and Found. I believe it was earlier this year. Still in the process of reading it, but very great book. And congratulations on completing that project. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. There's a slight lineup change. So what's going to happen next is I'm going to go up next for the open mic and share 2 poems. And then I'm going to bring up tonight's feature, Mr. Terry E. Carter. So I pulled 2 poems from my archives. These were both written a few years back. The first poem is called We Are One. And this poem was written for a service at my church. We had a service called International Heritage Day. And, you know, the emphasis or the theme was, for the most part, talking about unity, coming together as people, coming together as believers. So this poem was written along the lines of that theme. So this is We Are One. We are one with God and each other, moving at the speed of revelation of the Holy Spirit. We are one body in Christ, and when we move as one, we can accomplish the work set before us. We are one in the mission field, be it the city streets or the farmlands. Wherever God calls us to plant and to water, we position ourselves so He alone can bring the harvest of souls. We are one with God when we move in His Spirit and keep His commandments. We are one with God when we operate in the liberty His Spirit provides. We all have a purpose to serve. We all have something to contribute. It is by God's design that we are different but the same. We all live different chapters but are part of the same story. The story of destiny laid out from the moment God said, "Let there be light." We have a mission to be God's hands extended and the privilege to do so in a way that reflects our unique identities and personalities. We have a mandate to put God first, His kingdom first, and witness Him add to our lives individually and corporately. We are one driven by the testimonies of the ones that came before us, the ones whose lives are testimonies of God's saving grace and provision, testimonies of God's faithfulness. It is not our own strength or wisdom, but God's alone that gives us the will to walk together. We are not easily broken when we stand together in prayer and purpose. We are not lost when we're already found in the presence of God, standing in His will. We are not blown away with every wind of doctrine when we stand on the truth of the scriptures. We are not defeated when we claim and walk in the victory that's already been won at the cross. We are one in Christ, and in Christ, we have the light that leads to life more abundant. We are one in Christ, empowered to walk in purpose for God's glory alone. Thank you. So that was We Are One. Thank you so much. And the second piece for the evening, I try diving into, a little bit of romance poetry. So this one is called Sands of Dubai. Her name is Mystery. Her fragrance of lilacs and desert blossoms fills the air wherever she walks. The northwest winds make her burnt sienna hair dance jubilantly. Her light caramel skin illuminates in the sun. Her dress flows in the breeze like a happy child running in a field. Her name is Mystery, and I am in awe of her magnificent beauty. She has my attention. I stand in awe of her in the sands of Dubai. It has to be at least 105 degrees, but her beauty brings a cool refreshing to my soul. I see her in all of her glory, the princess of the desert. I am the prince of the desert in my royal white attire, sitting on my white horse, caught up in the rapture of her femininity. Her name is Mystery. She looks in my direction with the gaze of a distant lover and smiles with an aura of gratitude. Would I be her prince for the moment or for a lifetime? I have no sense of time. Time seems to have stopped, so I can take in this moment of grandeur, this moment of grandeur that is the epitome of womanhood in my sight. I ride towards her, feeling the electricity of the event. Were you waiting for me? I say somewhat sarcastically. I see no other desert prince worthy of my presence, she says boldly, knowing very well what she wants, wasting not 1 minute. Will you ride with me into the desert night? I ask, knowing exactly what I wanted. I have waited for this moment. I waited for your manifestation out of the visions of my many dreams, she said boldly, as if to confirm that our meeting was destined in the stars. I reach for her hand and say, then ride with me into the sands of Dubai. Be my bride. We will rule the desert with our love. She takes my hand and I help her up onto my horse. You feel the longing in my soul. Take me away with you. Let us ride into the setting of the crimson sun. Let us leave everything behind and become one. I happily oblige, and in that second of awe, we kiss passionately. We begin to ride off into the desert, filled with the electricity of romance. Will I still know you only as Mystery? I said curiously. This quote-unquote mystery and many more will be revealed in the sands of our time, my love. With that said, I was satisfied, and I made the horse quicken its pace, and we then rode into the desert full of happiness never seen before, for we both knew that by the time we made it to the Gulf of Oman, we would be married in a ceremony fit for a desert prince and desert princess. Thank you. So that was Sands of Dubai. Thank you all so much. And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce tonight's feature. That is Mr. Terry E. Carter, and this is his bio. Terry E. Carter is a gifted writer and speaker. Terry is also a classically trained poet whose literary influences range from Shakespeare to the Harlem Renaissance. Terry is a husband, father, and an ordained deacon and arts minister. He enjoys taking contemporary life and faith experiences and translating them into word pictures that engage people in a truly unique way. His insightful lyricism cuts directly into the heart of the problems of race, culture, and social justice. He has published 5 volumes of inspired poetry, including his most recent book, Brown Skin and the Brave New World, a poet's anthem, which was released in the fall of 2020. Terry is a cancer survivor and has written about this journey extensively. He was just recently chosen as Medford's first ever poet laureate. For more information about Terry, his poetry, and his books, please visit his website, www.brownskinpoet.net. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce Mr. Terry E. Carter.
Thank you very much, Noel, and good evening to everybody. That Medford is actually Medford, Massachusetts. It's about 7 miles north of Boston, Massachusetts, and it's where I was born and raised. I work there. I don't live there anymore, but I'm pretty close, and I'm there quite a lot. So Medford thought it would be okay to, even though I don't live in the city anymore, to designate me as the poet laureate. And it was a proud moment for me because coming from a city that was predominantly white and being designated as the poet laureate of that city, it meant a lot to the people who helped to raise me and to the history of our predominantly Black community. So I'm in a political season right now, as many of us are. I don't necessarily like it, but I found it very necessary to speak my mind on some of the things that we're seeing in terms of race and social justice and, you know, the climate of incivility that we seem to be dealing with right now in our political institutions, in our social institutions as well. So I'm a long form poet. I just want to let everybody know that up front because I'm a storyteller. And so my poems tend to be lengthy. The first poem that I'm going to share, and I'm hoping that I'm preaching to the choir, is called White Flight. So let me get this straight. You're confused by the notion that Black folk are angry over a young brother being sentenced to 45 years for killing a police dog. But you're not in the least wise conflicted over dozens of police officers not being convicted for killing unarmed Black men. Let off the hook, let out of the class courtroom, let back into the good graces of their home communities, far away from the flames and the terror they create on the other side of the tracks. That's called white flight. It's a condition characterized by the blind retreat of y'all people from any set of facts that suggest that Black folk ought to, need to, or should be entitled to a righteous sense of injustice and indignation, how the law is applied to our brothers and sisters versus how the law is applied to y'all people. No, seriously. Your current version of the POTUS can lie, mislead, and abuse the trust of the American public with immunity and impunity. He can consort with foreign agents and reap the benefits of their dealings with his trademark business interests, despite serious prohibitions against legitimate conflict. He can openly discriminate, blindly castigate, and gleefully eviscerate the Constitution, and you're cool with it. He's apologized for and celebrated, where a brother would have been dragged through the streets, excoriated, then incarcerated. That's called white flight. It's a condition characterized by the denial of y'all people to the biggest political mistake ever made by an electorate that was misinformed, misdirected, and just plain mad about how somebody else's rights and somebody else's entitlements and somebody else's differences somehow detracted, distracted, or subtracted from the rights, entitlements, and differences that attach to y'all people. A lot of hating going on right now. A lot of race baiting going on right now. A lot of demonstrating going on right now by the red, white, and blue, and the red, black, and green. The Rainbow Coalition and the folks with the ammunition, guns at the ready, mostly in the hands of y'all people. NRA stalwarts, gated community residents, and HOA presidents, Second Amendment sticklers, fantasizing Hitlers, alt-right defenders, and no ethnic blenders, quenching that thirst for America first. White flight, straight to the heartland where corn, potatoes, and the amber waves of grain don't need brown folk to pick, lift, and separate, but where the anger over the loss of family farms is misdirected by the red state barnstormers at the blue state reformers, where big oil still dominates and the Koch brothers nominate a president and his running mate, Supreme Court justices, cabinet secretaries, and all those retired generals. White flight, back to the darkest heart of Dixie, where Confederate flags still fly, midnight crosses still burn, and hooded marauders still yearn for bitter, charred fruit. Swinging from poplar trees, where new babies are indoctrinated, and Blacks and Jews are especially hated. In the heat of the night and the broad daylight by Billy Bob and Sally Lou and the next generation of American PWT and Breitbart GOP. White flight, back to the heart of the urban centers, displacing the folks that got pushed into the inner city and confined to the teeming ghetto when the suburbs said no, when the moneylenders said no, when the school systems and the employers said no, gentrifying Harlem, hipsterizing Brooklyn, Brahminizing Boston again. IPOs, entrepreneurs, the Tony and the trendy, condos, cocktails, and haute cuisine, museums, mopeds, and millionaires, Uber hailing, weekend sailing, Keno and Kaling, always pushing folk back, always holding folk down, always moving folk around, proudly displaying diversity decals and coexist bumper stickers and baby on board badges on VWs, Volvos, and Chevy Volts. The baby boomers left the nice neighborhoods, couldn't deal with the blackifying and the brownifying and the tannifying of the neighborhoods. But their kids are coming back, rehabifying, condo buying, speculating, integrating, and eliminating, replacing the red, black, and green with the red, white, and blue. Or is that magenta, ecru, and teal? museums and mahjong, tapas, dim sum and microbrews, cigar parlors and organic attitudes, liberal platitudes, trust fund gratitudes. It's called white flight, and it's a condition characterized by the consistent assertion that y'all can change the rules of the game whenever you want, however you want, wherever you want. If we got it and y'all want it, y'all can take it. Buy us out, burn us out, turn us out, jail us up, ship us out, shut us up, rip up the contract, ignore the impact, supplant the truth with alternative fact, and run with it, roll with it, rock with it. Okay, just so I'm clear, you're replacing Obamacare. You don't know how or when or where, but a black man did it, so you just can't bear to let people, and I mean all the people, including your own working poor, benefit. Ain't that some shiitake mushrooms? Y'all willing to let your own folk die. What in the world is your alibi? Oh, I dig it. Any battle my president won absolutely got to be undone. It's that white flight thing. Running from the Mexicans, running from the Muslims, running from the blacks, the Jews, and the gay, running from the truth, the light, and the way, running from the poor, the sick, and bereft, running from the probing press on the left, running from token scrutiny on the right, running from fires that blaze in the night, running from the crumbling blight of the hood, running from the just, the fair, and the good, running angry, running scared, and running wild, running like the buttons code's been dialed. A lot of hating going on right now. A lot of race baiting going on right now. A lot of demonstrating going on right now by the red, white, and blue, and the red, black, and green. By the Rainbow Coalition and the folks with the ammunition, guns at the ready, mostly in the hands of y'all people. Recreational shooters, loaded up to take out looters, good old boys and business suitors, old clan mentalities and new clan realities, locked and loaded, making America great again. One cap at a time, one clip at a time, one mag at a time, one black bag at a time. Can't catch you. The plane is on the runway and the pattern is clear. White flights departing daily for a blind retreat to denial, denigration, and a dispensation where y'all can change the rules of the game wherever you want, whenever you want, however you want. If we got it and y'all want it, y'all can take it. Buy us out, burn us out, turn us out, jail us up, ship us out, shut us up, rip up the contract, ignore the impact, replace the truth with alternative fact, and run with it, rock with it, roll with it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, you know, a lot of folks think I'm an angry poet, and sometimes the lyrics are, have some fury in them and have some anger, but really all I am is a truth teller. And I think it's important to be edgy in favor of telling the truth and shaming the devil, so to speak. So, if you hear anger, I hope you can kind of take it as really truth being dispensed, because that's how I feel about it. So thanks very much for being patient with my long form poetry. I'll try to read some things that are a little bit shorter going forward. So I really feel like it's important for us to. I have a daughter. She's 28 years old. She lives in Brooklyn, and she's actually in Anchorage, Australia right now, doing theater. She's in Little Women, and I never thought that I would ever have a child that would be doing theater in Anchorage, Alaska. But she's happy, and that's really, really all I care about. So we support her wherever she is. We're sending a big box of warmer clothing for her because she's going to be there for a little while. And then she's going to the other side of Alaska to Juneau to do the same play. So this is part of my mission to make sure she understands who we are and how we are as a people. This is called legacy. It's not for you to tell your own story. That is the burden of your children. They must shoulder this yoke with love, and loyalty. And yet, you have not gathered them up and bid them sit before the campfires of their elders. You have not seasoned their meals with the spice of their identity and the savor of their names. How will they learn to walk the walk and talk the talk? How will they learn to tell your stories, even as they live out their own? Sons and daughters and heirs, if you didn't smell the burning ash or feel the warmth of the flame on your neck, you don't know. If you didn't revel in the growl of the griot's earthy reply or the trill of the mockingbird's cry, you don't know. If mama was too tired and daddy too long gone to carry the wood, to light the spark and stoke the flames, you don't know. And until the lion cub knows how to tell the pride stories, the hunters will always tell them first. The good book says, train up the child in the way they should go. Will we let them depart from the community of faith and the city on the hill without the master's touch, without the oil of his anointing and his full measure of grace? Will we not show them Anansi's clever ways, Popo and Fifina's journey, Mufaro's beautiful daughters, the people who could fly, the wonders of Wakanda and Songololo's new tackies? The prophet says he will encourage fathers and their children to return, but how will they know the way home if no map charts the seas, measures the roads, cites the peaks and valleys, and names each forest despite the thickening trees? Will the burden of the elder's story be too heavy for the children? Will they care to carry? Will they dare to tarry? Will they linger at the foot of the griot? Will they hunger for the wisdom of the sage? We must put them on the page, where hard work earns the man his wage, where power is measured by God's own gauge, where miracles scoff at the wand of a mage. We must share with them the truth that is loyal and fierce like Naomi in truth, that doesn't wait for the confessional booth, that has the bite of the panther's tooth. This is the gift of legacy, where a glorious past sets the captives free and the candle's light beckons liberty. Sons and daughters and heirs, I bid you sit before the campfires of your elders, hear their stories, gather up their stones, and build up your strength. They will show you Anansi's clever ways, Popo and Fifina's journey, the people who could fly, the wonders of Wakanda, and Songololo's new tackies. Soon, you will be the herald. Write these things down on the tablets of your spirit. Let them put a running in your feet. With each quickening step, you repel the arrows of the hunter with the shield of abiding faith. You capture the flags of your enemies and gather up their spoils. You remain the lions of the pride, and your tails will always be your children's bread. You will never abandon the community of faith, though you build 1,000 cities on a hill, drawing wondrous strength from the master's touch as the oil of his anointing fills your clay jars with his grace. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hi, Sarah. Thank you. So I like jazz. Noel knows, the couple of opportunities that we've had to share that I've watched, him and he's watched me. I pretty much always have a jazz poem that I share. So I want to do that with you tonight. Now, if you know jazz music, the jazz canon has some standards and has some great musicians that are pretty much known by everybody. And one of those musicians is a long departed brother by the name of John Coltrane. He was an alto saxophone player. John Coltrane wrote a piece and recorded a piece that is in that jazz canon and is one of the standards. It's been covered dozens and dozens of times, but it's quintessential Coltrane, and everybody knows that. and it's called Naima. And I wrote a tribute piece called Reprise for Naima. So that's the piece I want to share with you. He would blow this note in the midnight air. Aloft in the ether, it floats out there. Staccato cadence sets a mood of bluesy lyrical attitude. Improvisational mystery like Monk's piano epistrophe or Miles' tone poem in a silent way, and Flanagan's piece at the end of the day. Syncopated in sharp, bright tone, a countdown to stardust, a twilight zone, like a blue train running against the night, setting the pace, then out of sight. With Hartman crooning or bags on vibes, trios, duets, quartets, and tribes, the blues, the ballads, the avant-garde, incredibly gorgeous, impossibly hard. Giant steps move us miles ahead, cooking up bark for Harlem street cred. Melodies hand to the harmony wed, piano's lullaby fresh in the bed. Rhythm rocks where the drummer led, rhythm rolls where the bass man sped. Rhythm birthed what the saxophone bred, rhythm heard what the master said. How could he make the bitter taste sweeter? How could a tortured mind delete her? How could the mellowed scotch be neater? How could the smoke from each cigarette create blue notes that cast the net, create blue beads of cascading sweat, create blue haze that confounds regret, create blue nights that we can't forget? Coltrane's notes are a crystal scale, a velvety scream in the urban travail, the heavenly riff of a love supreme, the pungent whiff of his lover's dream. Coltrane's notes are a cozy romance, the breezy bounce of a bop and a dance, the languid lilt of Stray's lush life, the cadence cut by the artist's knife. Coltrane's notes are standards refined, like gold in a pan or gemstones mine, a sparkling glow of a hopeful dream, hot black coffee with a hint of cream. Coltrane's notes are Naima's reprise, like madness that brings a man to his knees or sadness that comes when lovers part, the gladness removed from the balladier's heart. A tight arrangement cuts the gloom. The melody says that love's in bloom. The harmony spirit engulfs the room. The bride says yes to her lyrical groom. The groove and the beat then jump the broom. The kick drum resounds with a sonic boom as genius is birthed in a soul-filled womb. Musical mythology mocks a twisted path the hero walks. With shield and sword, the hero stalks. The temptress shakes her twisted locks. Medusa snakes, his vision shocks. Holds up the mirror, the stony blocks. The harp and the horn melt icy rocks. Serpent retreat, and symphony talks. Love's door opens as lyric knocks. Coltrane's notes are a roller coaster, a hallelujah and a paternoster. The glorious jolt of the maestro's hand, the saxophone titan is in command. Coltrane's notes are a crazy rhythm, the squawk of chords and playful schism, the frenetic pace of Mr. PC, the coolest round midnight will ever be. Coltrane's notes are genius refined, like gold in a pan or gemstones mine, the sparkling glow of a hopeful dream, hot black coffee with a hint of cream. Coltrane's notes are Naima's reprise, like madness that brings a man to his knees, or sadness that comes when lovers part, then gladness revived by the balladier's heart. Thank you. Thank you. So Noel, am I good, or do you want me to do one more short one?
You could do a short one. That's totally fine. I've enjoyed your poetry, man. Awesome poetry.
Thank you, my brother. I got a short one, and hopefully this is nice and peaceful, and you'll like it. This is called Seventh Day. Sometimes doing nothing speaks to the spirit too. Thus, lazy is also a language. Indolence is not always lacking effort, and ennui has its place. Let the bodies in motion stay in motion. Bodies at rest are cool too. I'm not mad at the joggers and the power walkers and the gym rats and the workout mavens. I'm not sucking my teeth at the early risers and the energizer bunnies that keep on going and going and going. God bless the rushing waters and the rolling hills and the racing blood. May he also send a quieter grace to babbling brooks and silent springs. Reclined is not declined, any more than resting is protesting, any more than chilling means unwilling, any more than entropy means atrophy. Relaxing is biblical too. The Lord rested on the seventh day, and Mary tarried at the feet of Jesus, much to the chagrin of Martha, but perfectly okay with the master. Sometimes doing nothing speaks to the spirit too. Thank you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Wow, wow, man. Wow, man. Phenomenal poetry, man. Thank you
you,
so
brother.
much for coming through. And as mentioned, you can find Terry's work on his website, www.brownskinpoet.net. I just recently purchased copies of Brown Skin and the Burden of Proof and Brown Skin and the Brand New Day. So guys, when you get an opportunity, check out his work. Awesome material. Love the imagery. You know what I'm saying? Just all around great poetry. And I'm happy to have an opportunity to connect with you again and hear your work. Thank you so much for coming through.
Noel, thank you as always. And I enjoy this forum. The poets are always exceptional. Lynn and Michelle, and you as well, Noel. I tip my cap to you all for enlightening and filling my spirit with poetry, which is what we all love. So I'm looking forward to whatever conversation we'll have now. But it's been a wonderful night of poetry.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, before we dive into this evening's discussion, we're going to take a brief 5-minute pause. So as I step away for a brief moment, I'm going to just play some music, and y'all could just connect with one another, greet one another, and we'll be resuming shortly.
Wonderful imagery, it really was.
Thank you.
Yeah, really appreciated that.
Very good.
Very good.
Excellent. All right, everybody, I'm back. Thank you all so much for your patience on that pause. So we're gonna dive into the next portion of tonight's event. But before I do that, I want to greet Sarah Saray. Good to see you again. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
I'm okay. Sarah Saray.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
I love you very much, so don't worry.
I know you said you weren't feeling well, but were you up to sharing tonight, or did
Yeah.
you just want to listen?
Did I miss an open mic or something? Am I that late? Or what did I miss? Because he's talking.
Yeah, the open mic started in the beginning. And then you
I'm
came
so
on
sorry.
afterwards. No, that's
Oh,
fine.
but I did miss his poetry, so that's good. Okay, that's the.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Did you want to share?
Yeah, I'll read an older poem.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I'll read one poem. Okay, I sorry. I have not been sick for 3 years, and then I got really lax on wearing my mask, and I got a cold. So I guess that's something. And of course, I'm gonna search for the. Okay, so this was a poem, and I'm saying that also because I don't want to get up again and find a different poem. So I'm gonna read this poem. I don't want to get up from my chair. And I started this really late at night. I was on the subway, and things got a little scary. And so I just sat there, and there was someone straight across from me who was he was with his wife, and I think they were they were Christian, and they were praying. And so anyway, I started. It was like Russian mob time on the subway at 2 a.m. So I started writing this poem. When I say I started praying, I started writing this poem. White tunnel and the night return. I was vessel, dumb animal receptor. DNA snaked me into life. 3 insurrectionist rivers carried me. Antiquity was my patron saint. I heard a call before I heard a call, an off rhythm more fluid than any legacy code, patriarchal in my cells. A woman floating, I splashed oceanic palms my sisters envied, light years off. I have been lucky. Jesus, dance with me. Mary, in your arms. No one said anything, let alone it will be easy. The writers said it will be hard. Ethics and a capacity for reason and doubt, a daily crucifixion. The shills asked for Barabbas every freaking day, Barabbas. Jesus, dance with me. Mary, in your arms. Just now, I prayed the kindness funnel herself to this subway car. I am wet clay, not the wind. I can't part seas of red, infirmity from body, rage from the raging. Dance with me, Jesus. Hold me, Mary. You must have the strength of Ozymandias and consider his stupidity, a heart that feeds, a hand that mocks. There is nothing out of place, Jesus. Hold me, Mary. I might be wrong. The end.
Wow.
Excellent piece. Excellent piece. Wow.
That must have been some subway ride.
Listen, that sounds better than a lot of some of the rides I've taken. That's for sure. Wow, awesome. Awesome poem, Sarah. Thank you so much for sharing. For those not familiar with you, can you share where you can be found on social media or if you have a website?
Oh, sure. I don't these days, I guess I don't know because I don't have it memorized. I'm sorry. But on Facebook, I think if you just, go to Facebook / and then I don't know. This is me. This is that's my name. Is that showing up?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can
Is
see
it
that.
showing up backwards? Okay, this is
Awesome,
a
awesome.
chapbook from a while back. I'm sorry, I'm not, but I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, awesome.
And
awesome.
I have a no, never mind. I'm not announcing that yet. Nothing.
Okay. No worries, no worries. Well, whenever you're ready to share about it, I'm sure it'll be great for sure.
Noel is great. And have I met you, sir? Terry E. Carter, have we met?
I don't know that when I first heard your name, it sounded familiar to me for some reason, but I couldn't place it.
Okay, because I don't think that we have, but you were being so, generous and welcoming. That's just who you are. I loved your poetry. I really loved your poetry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you, Sarah, so much for coming through and sharing. And I do hope you feel better very soon.
Oh, I will.
Excellent, excellent. So now, y'all, we're going to move on into the next portion of our workshop, and I'm going to share my screen again. So now at this time, we're going to get into the theme of tonight's event, which is Scribes in All Seasons. How do you build yourself up to be a scribe for all seasons? How do you maintain your passion for writing poetry when so many facets of life and the art can get in the way and bring discouragement and disappointment? Now, when it takes some time to share our words and our perspectives on what it means for us to keep going or to keep doing what we love in the midst of, our life's challenges. Now, I'll start with myself. Let me unshare. Okay, there we go. So basically, as far as myself, life can easily get in the way, as a creative, and, we're not always motivated to write, it's not always easy to find inspiration, and sometimes you need to step back from your pen and paper and, to regroup and rethink and gather your thoughts, so you avoid burning out and just getting turned off from your craft completely. Well, I found that, when you're really passionate about your art, there's always a way for you to express yourself, you know, even when you feel like you can't or don't want to. You know, I find writing to be like a source of therapy, you know, to release those thoughts and emotions. And come to find out, sometimes you write your best work when you're going through something, and then you're able to, you know, go back to it at a later date and realize how much of a difference it made when you expressed yourself at that particular moment in time. So, you know, our writing has a purpose, you know, not just for our own sanity and self-worth, but, you know, you never know who you could be helping or reaching with what you have to say. So, you know, I want to open the floor to all of you to share, you know, your thoughts and ideas or perspectives on, you know, what do you do to stay motivated as a writer and a poet? You know, what keeps you going? What keeps you passionate about your poetry? And any one of you, you know, can feel free to begin to share.
I can share.
Mhm.
I was actually thinking about this recently because I do find that sometimes I'm not consistent with my poetry or journaling, or sometimes I kind of just fall off. Ideally, I would journal or write poetry every day. That doesn't always happen. One thing I was thinking about actually is kind of putting something in the schedule just so it's consistent. So even if it's you know, I do enjoy going to open mic events. I get inspired by them. So I'm kind of like telling myself, okay, how many do I want to attend in a month? So I feel like that's something that's going to be helpful for me. And then just kind of another piece is being comfortable with kind of listening more as well. I love to perform and share my work, but I also get very inspired when I kind of take in poetry and hear different styles. So that's just some thoughts of mine.
Excellent, excellent. Those are good pointers to consider. Thank you, Michelle. Anyone else care to chime in?
Say Noel, this is Tessa. I don't have like a picture by when I'm not, you know, when I go out of the video.
Mhm.
But my name is Tessa Matiea, and these are great questions. My question is, will you have will there be somewhere we can read what questions you asked us to think about and talk about, and because it's like it's inspiring, right? It's inspiring me to write right now. And being in I was gonna in further developing that point, I was gonna say being in the now is for introverts is you have to, it's a challenge, but once you find that moment, and then the rhythm of the poetry just kind of flows out for me from onto the page. And I love the question you asked. And okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for nice to meet you. I think we connected on email recently, if I'm not mistaken. So thank you for coming on tonight. What I can do is I could send a copy of this PowerPoint to everybody that's on tonight. I believe I have all your email addresses, so this will be sent in an email, so you can refer back to these questions that you know on your own time, and refer back to it at your leisure. So I can definitely share them. It's not a problem. And thank you so much, Tessa.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to share their thoughts on these questions?
I will. I think what drives me is I've always been, and my mother said this first to me, and she passed away several years ago. God rest her gentle soul. She said, "You're a poet of occasion," because people would always ask me, "Can you write a poem for such and such birthday? You know, we're having a going home celebration. You know, you knew so and so. Could you write a poem that speaks to who they were while they were with us?" You know, I've written poems for inaugurations, political inaugurations. I think that's part of how I got to be the poet laureate of Medford, is through that kind of writing. I've written poems for, you know, celebrations of new monuments in the city, and lots of things like that. So I think part of what drives me is being motivated to write for occasion, always for like, you know, landmark birthdays in my wife or my daughter's life. I'm always going to write. You know, my brother passed. I officiated his going home, my mother's and my father's. So I wrote, you know, poetry for all three of those going homes. So, and several others. So that's part of what motivates me. The other thing that motivates me is that I want young people who are, you know, spoken word artists to write, because in a lot of cases they're so talented, they're so verbally talented, and so, you know, they can be so extemporaneous, and that they don't write. You know, they'll, you know, maybe they'll jot a few notes down on their poem, or when they go on stage they might have a couple of index cards with, you know, with some bullet points, but they're not writing. And I think that is a shame, because I know, because they lose a lot of poetry. A lot of what doesn't get written down or spoken every other day. You know, the mind is a sieve, and stuff will run through it and out of it and be gone, and you never have it again. So the written word is very, very important to me. As you said, Nov, I've written 5 books. I'm working on my 6th right now. And I want there to be a record. I want that to be part of the legacy that I pass on to my daughter, is the written word on pages that doesn't get lost. So that really, those 2 things in particular motivate me. And now, because I'm out on the circuit, quote unquote, whatever that means, I've always got to have fresh stuff. So that motivates me too. They say that pressure bursts pipes, but I know that it also creates diamonds. So I don't mind the pressure. I don't think that my pipes are going to get burst, although, you know, I do feel them bulging from time to time. I rather hope that what's happening to me is that, you know, I'm being formed from this lump of anthracite coal into a diamond. I hope it doesn't take 1,000,000 pounds of pressure over 1,000,000 years to happen, but if it does, so be it.
Mm-hmm. All right, excellent. Thank you for sharing that, Terry. And I want to point out to the chat, Michelle says, I also want to lead more writing workshops. I'm glad to propose the question, Michelle. Thank you. And you also noted it is so important to write down your thoughts when you have them. Yes, I agree with that too. Anytime you feel inspired or have an idea, make sure you write it down, because just as quickly you can lose that thought. So I definitely agree with that point, Michelle. Thank you. And I also want to note that, you know, well, for myself personally, you know, writing is part of my purpose. Writing is part of who I am. You know, it's an extension of myself. And I think we can all agree to some degree that our writing is an extension of ourselves. What makes us who we are. You know, our writing is made up of our own shared experiences. Oh, well, I should say, whether our experiences are shared or, you know, experiences delegated to just ourselves, you know, I think when we write, you know, somebody can relate to what we have to say in one way or another. And you never know what impact you're having on another person. You never know the person that you might be inspiring or encouraging or motivating with your words. You know, we all have a voice. And, you know, that's one of the things that I wanted to establish with these workshops and open mics, is that I want to provide the space for everybody to feel like that they have a voice. So whether you knew already that you had a voice, or if you wasn't sure you had a voice, or if you felt like you don't have one, I want to make everyone feel that they have a voice, that they are important, that what you have to say is important, it's relevant, it matters, and that your words have an impact. And, you know, we may not be able to reach everybody, but every one of us on the line tonight, every one of us as poets, we may not reach everybody, but you can reach somebody. Even if it's just one person, that one person, you don't know how much of an impact you can have on just one person. That one person can go and tell 10 people, and those 10 people can reach another 10 people and so on and so forth. So what we have to offer matters. It has value, and I'm making it my mission to acknowledge and appreciate all poets that I come across. And as I close out this year, with this event, I thank each and every one of you for taking time out to connect with me, to share your work. I encourage you to connect with each other, network with each other, lean on one another, seek advice or inspiration from each other. We're all in this together. We're all different. Our writing may be different, our subject matter may be different, but we're all in this together for the love of poetry and for the love and respect of the art form. So I just encourage you all to keep doing what you're doing. All of your work is very inspiring, very motivating. I'm thoroughly blessed and grateful to have this opportunity to hear from you tonight. And I just encourage you to keep going, keep being inspired, keep being an inspiration, and look for inspiration. And that's how we keep this art form going. That's how we show the world that this is a relevant art form. This is not a fad. This is a very solid art form that deserves its respect and its proper place in the literary world. And we're all doing our own contributions to that world in our own way. So thank you all very much.
Very good. Very good.
So before I close, does anyone have any final thoughts? Sarah?
I do. I was just gonna say, we may inspire one person who, then talks to 10 people, or I may just inspire one person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's enough, I'm not, I'm just one person. You know how it is at the end of the day, you've been somewhere or the office and someone says, oh, what you said made me feel so much better. And that's enough, man. And also I just want to say, Terry, that I would love for you to like what you said about spoken word and how it could also be written down, and that would, make it even stronger and maybe a lot. Just what I would love for that message to get out, because I don't think I've ever heard a spoken word poet say that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's so much disdain for that, because they had this whole great gift that I don't have for remembering things. So I'm not knocking that, but I think it would be very valuable because I know what happens when I write.
Yeah.
So if there's
I'm sorry. Thank you. I say it, especially every time I'm doing a workshop with a younger audience. I've done a bunch of them. Is when you get to be my age, you're gonna have to write it down because memory is a fleeting thing. When you're in your 60s, it's not like it was when you were in your 20s. But I said, even now, when you're in your late teens or in your 20s, your word has worth and value that you don't recognize when all you do is, and they call it spitting, when all you do is spit. You right off the top of your head, the hip hop world, that rap sensibility, you're so into it and you're so good at it, but your powers of recall at some point are going to fade. And if your words haven't been written down somewhere, there's probably a generational loss. There's probably going to be people who would love to have heard what you said and known what you stood for, but now your words are gone because you didn't write them down.
And I just want to say, it's not just about, I don't think, writing the poem down, but writing is a way of holding, framing, highlighting,
agreed,
commemorating. It's the tiniest things. I mean, I'll give you an example. Today, which was so warm, I went out back finally to put out some more suet for the birds. And I have butterflies that are in cocoons that are overwintering. I leave them out there all winter, and sleet, snow, rain, hail, and in the spring they're born. I had one born today.
Mm,
It's totally wrong. It's a very small thing,
yeah.
but if I don't write it down, I'm not going to remember this little 2 seconds where I'm shocked to see on November 5th a butterfly born for what?
Yeah.
And, you know, should be happy, but it's not happy. And, but to hold on to these things, it's not a poem yet.
Mhm.
If I don't write it down, the whatever story is gone. So one, it's about holding on maybe to your work of art and recognizing it as a value. But something also happens for you that's nurturing to remember things. And then the other thing, if these young people write their words down, they can edit them.
Yes.
And sometimes that's
Yes.
where our growth is as
Exactly.
a person and as a poet, as a thinker, a sharer, a teacher, is that time spent with our own selves that they're missing. So I just had to put that all in.
That's a wonderful, wonderful reflection. You know, and I don't hate, it's part of what probably got left out of how I said it. So I really, really am glad that you amplified the notion, because one, the editing process is absolutely essential to us who want to write good stuff, but also, you know, just that germ of an idea that you take from infancy and write it down that can someday later become something important and beautiful. It's a wonderful thing. And I really do appreciate that notion of that butterfly coming out of its chrysalis being totally wrong in November. It's not supposed to happen. And the unnatural nature of climate change right now is forcing a whole bunch of stuff on us that is so bizarre. It really, really is. You know, trees, deciduous trees that are still totally green in November, that's wrong. That's not supposed to be the way it is. So,
And we're marking a change
yeah,
because
we are.
20 years from now, you know, I don't know if
Yeah.
anybody will remember the moment that a butterfly was born in November.
Unbelievable. That's perfect. I hope a poem comes out of that.
Awesome.
Thank
Awesome
you.
points, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing. Definitely a lot of points to consider. And, you know, and I just encourage everyone to just keep writing, keep writing, keep writing, keep writing, keep adding value to this art that we call poetry. And, you know, and we can join in with, you know, all the poets that came before us, you know, because we could look back on their work and see where they were at their point in time, you know, and use that as a point of reference for where we are today to help us get to where we need to go. And then when we're no longer here, people will read our work and see where we were at this point in time and be able to pull whatever they feel is relevant to them to help them carry on. So we're part of the cycle, you know, we're part of this, you know, creative life cycle, so to speak, you know, where we're all essentially leaving a legacy, you know, at the end of the day. So I just encourage you all to keep building a legacy, keep leaving a legacy, and just keep believing in your work, because I most certainly do.
No, thank you for everything that you're doing in the poetry community. You're really making a difference.
Yeah, thank you. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity to do so. Thank you all so much. All right, Charles. So as I close out this evening, I'm just going to share one more screen to cover a couple of more things. Okay, so as I mentioned, as soon as we log off, I'm going to send an email of this PowerPoint to everyone. Thank you all so much. If you're not already connected to the Facebook group Poets for Purpose, feel free to, you know, request an invite and I'll join you in. Can also connect on YouTube This video will be uploaded to the YouTube channel within the next hour or so. So once it's uploaded, everyone is feel free to share it, you know, with their social media contacts and what have you. This is the last open mic and workshop for the year. I'm going to be taking a break essentially, you know, for the month of December, you know, to rest and regroup and prepare for 2023. So I will be on break essentially. Poets with Purpose and the PWP Sessions podcast will be on holiday break from December 1st until the 31st, 2022, and I'll be resuming in January 2023. Now, the Facebook group will still be active, you know, so if you have any events, if you have any, you know, book releases or anything poetry related that you'd like to share to the group, you know, if you want to connect with other poets, you know, the group will still be open for you to do any of those activities. And I thank you all so much for being a supporter of the group, or a supporter of my events and my podcast. Your support and your encouragement and your inspiration, as always, has been greatly appreciated. For more information about, you know, my Poets with Purpose or the PWP sessions, you can reach me at 646-372-6230 or email me at poetswithpurpose@gmail.com. All of my flyers and logos were created by the excellent team of Eclipse Graphics. You can find them on Instagram @Eclipse Graphics NY. If you want to see more samples of their work or reach out to them for work for your own projects, you can do so on Instagram or through their website at eclipsegraphicsny.com. And lastly, anyone wishing to make a donation can do so through PayPal, Tap Media Man, Cash App, $Anointed Pen, or through my phone number on Zelly. And that, ladies and gentlemen, ends this edition of November Notations. Thank you all so much for your poetry, for your inspiration, for your insights in our discussion. Very, very, very productive evening, very inspiring evening. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Everyone
Thanks,
have a
Noel.
good night and a great weekend. God bless. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
Nay.